Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen.
What do you start with ladies and gentlemen for? Sam, did you go fishing today?
No.
Then what are you doing on this podcast?
I'm going to the... Let's talk about Halloween stuff.
Halloween stuff?
Yes.
Why don't you give the slobbery microphone to Dion so we can do the show?
I'm going to do it.
No, come on, let's do it this way.
Maybe.
Because you know what? We're actually live right now. It's on. It's ho ho ho. Hey, time's up, buddy. Time to pass it over.
Time for me to do it.
Gotta go. See you, buddy.
Good job. Way to do the
Good
pre-show.
job, Sam. Way to tell everybody welcome.
Now he's gonna melt down.
Oh, he's good.
I don't think.
He'll be fine.
Nope, he's doing all right.
See?
Yeah, it looked like he was not unhappy.
I always say kids are scared of the police, and now I know why.
Well, okay.
No, I'm just shifting.
Hang on a minute. I'm gonna do a little bit of adjusting here.
Adjust away, sir.
Just away, he says. All right, I'm gonna squeeze this baby in.
Hello, hello.
Did you turn it off?
Hello.
Did you turn it off?
Hello.
There
Hello.
you go. You're up.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, you're all right. I think.
What's the matter?
Well, everybody's kind of cut off on their face there, so I'm gonna have to back it up a little bit.
Back it up.
Back it up. This fancy setup we got here. We got it. That looks better.
Well,
All right.
as good as we can, anyway.
Do what?
I said as good as we can,
Yeah.
look.
Can only,
No, there it is. See,
can only do
everybody's
so
on there
much.
now. We good.
Yep.
We got one viewer.
That'll
That's
work.
cool.
One viewer.
That's me. I think I'm logged on my own phone, so ain't nobody watching this show. It is 6:02 at the beautiful Lake of the Ozarks, inside the now official Dion Legends and Liars bar.
Oh, nice. We got
Yep.
our. We're officially
Served it this morning.
sweet.
I've served my license this morning. Now, that doesn't mean that we're selling beer yet,
Yeah.
because that just means we are able to talk to distributors and buy beer now,
I'm just
and then we can
glad
resell
that
beer and
they
make a little money. So
gave you your deal.
it's a great day for us because we can now capitalize on making guys buy beer when they're watching the show. B, guys got to celebrate it up because free beer day ends today. So that's it. Now you got to buy beer. So this is Real Unfiltered Talk. I'm James Bryant alongside the two-time world champion angler. And he's still on the water beating it every day.
That's right.
Dion Hibden.
That's right.
The water.
Yeah. Yes.
Which, by the way, you fished today, you said.
I did.
Not well.
No, not well at all. I caught some fish, but I didn't catch no good ones.
Before the show, I actually went on and talked to your son for a little bit.
Yeah.
You have 3, so it'd be Lawson.
Yeah.
And I tried to get him to come on to the show because, as I said to you, and I quote, kind of wanted you to come on to see how he can catch 40-plus pounds in 3 days. And I got my good tips from you, and you spent 7 hours in the water with my dad, and we only managed to catch 9.
7 hours.
2 to 7? 5 hours. 4 hours.
Start to say.
4 hours is quite a bit.
You need to work on your math.
Yeah, okay. I was like, your math's
Well,
not very
then
good.
if that's the case, then I had 15 pounds on Saturday instead of 9.
Yeah. You can only do so much. So I don't know what to tell you.
Well,
Hire
I mean,
Lawson. Get Lawson to take you. That ain't gonna happen.
you didn't take
He
me.
won't take me.
You didn't take me, for the record.
Yeah, Lawson won't take me, so I don't know how you think he's gonna take you.
Well, it's because I don't think, and I say this respectfully, I don't think you probably would listen to him.
That's probably our problem.
Because I wouldn't.
That's
I mean,
probably the issue.
it's like
Yeah.
there's got to be a little bit. I don't know if the term is vanity or not, but there's got to be a little bit there to say, you know what? I was pretty successful and I taught you a lot of stuff, and probably not going to take your advice at this point because everything you did, you learned because of me, and that probably causes a conflict.
And that's why he put 40-some pounds in the boat. And
I don't know.
Yeah.
You put 9 pounds?
I mean,
That's why I went out there today and I fished where I want them to be.
right.
You want the fish
And they're
to
not
be?
there, yeah.
Now, and see
And
that
they're not there yet, but that's where I want them to be.
we're going to have a conversation about that because you've lectured and lectured and lectured me about sometimes you can't fish where you think they're going to be.
That's for sure.
You got to go figure it out and maybe expand your horizons a little
Yep.
bit. Maybe burn a little gas and move outside the 1 mile radius that you fish.
Yep.
And I said, okay, I got that.
Well, it's
Did you?
me.
No.
No, I went to where
Daddy!
I went to where I wanted to fish, and it didn't pan out.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
the,
So anyway.
the Thursday night crew may not see me tomorrow night.
Yeah.
I got other stuff I can be doing. So
And that comes down to the difference between a recreational angler such as myself and a professional angler like you. You go out there to take their money.
yeah, I don't like losing.
Yeah, so if the bite's not going to work for you, it's like, I'm not going to give you my $20. Because is that what Thursday night is, like $20?
No, I think
Or is
it's
it
50
15?
now.
50?
50
Ooh,
now, I think.
Getting big. How many
Yeah.
boats they get? Like 6?
No, they're average. Last year when we were done, they were 18 to 20, low 20s to.
Yeah.
But
It's good to know that you can always finish in the top 20 most times.
yeah,
I like tournaments like that. So
it's a fun deal.
you
know,
just that's the take my wife in the summer tournament for you.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. That's it. I don't care if I go at all.
When
But-
you say you finish third and there's only 3 boats in the tournament.
Love those. I
Hey,
love it when I
you're
go, hey,
still
I finished
third.
third. And they go, how
I
many
don't-
boats? I said, I don't know. That's your always
But we
answer.
finished third. That's
You
all
always
that matters.
answer, if you have a 3-boat tournament and you finish third, the answer is, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, there was boats
Sure.
everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know how many boats there were.
Might not have been with our tournament, but we had boats everywhere.
That's
Yeah.
right. You got to know how to, it's kind of talking wide.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And that's okay.
it is okay.
It's your story.
I'm sticking to it.
That's right.
So, I was a little concerned tonight because you came fashionably late.
He was stressed.
It's okay.
I got hung up at the Long Tramp with some
So-
fans. How
I-
about that?
That's
They watch this. They listen to the show every week.
all 3 of them. It was nice.
Both of them do.
Yep, both of them. Both of us. Got it.
Both of us.
One boatload.
Gotcha.
I said, well, you can come watch it live tonight. Oh no, we're going fishing.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's the great
they're
thing
not
about
great fans. I
So
mean,
no, they can. We save them. They can go back and watch them again. Just because
Yeah.
we're live, they're on there all the time. So
Yeah.
guys, tell your friends. You can go to YouTube
well,
at
what
any
I'm
time.
saying is they're
Yeah.
not like a number one fan, because a number one fan, if you were invited by one of the hosts, would drop everything and come watch.
Yeah, and they still
So-
didn't.
Technically, you are the man on this show. That's two-time,
I didn't
two-time,
want to say that.
two-time
Right.
world champion.
Two-time world champion.
Two-time.
He's
But
the
what I am
the
trying to get
hostess with the
across
mostest.
Right. Exactly.
is that I got turned flat down for them to go out and go fishing. And I told them that they wasn't biting that good,
Right.
but
They might have been catfishing.
no, they had bass stuff.
Did they? All right.
They had bass stuff.
So anyway, I thought, man, I gotta find a fat guy quick, just in case. And the only one I could find was old Mikey here. So I'm like, hey, Mike, come on, let's do the show. And he's like, why? And I said, because we can find something to talk about.
Sure.
He's like, let me go put a good shirt on. I'm like, really? But normally he wears the torn off, like,
that's
muscle
true.
shirt.
I beat dead cats T-shirt, something like that.
There's nothing
All
wrong
right,
with that.
Why would you
I
beat a
kicked my
dead cat?
girlfriend's dog shirt. He
No,
wore that one
no,
time. It was a
I'll
good
do
one.
There you
that,
go.
for
Nothing
sure.
wrong
So
with that.
yep. So hey, welcome to the show, Mike Nienhuis.
Thank you, sir.
Mike is a interesting old cat.
That's an
He is.
understatement.
Now we can start with, I've known Mike quite a while. When I was in politics, Mike was in the sheriff's department. So I was a commissioner. He was I don't know, first lieutenant, second lieutenant.
First lieutenant.
That's a pretty good guess, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
And the whole thing started out the first time we met, Dion. You'll like the story. We were in budget meetings, and we're kind of setting all the department's budgets. And he comes in, and I said to him, I said, and first time you meet a cop in uniform, they're all the same way. They're like alpha male.
Yeah.
Respect my authority, sharp bill, pressed shirt, I'm First Lieutenant Mike Nienhuis, I was like, whatever. And I said, listen, Mike, can I call you Mike? Yeah. I said, do you really believe in protect and serve? He said, absolutely. And I said, then take your ass in there and get me a cup of coffee. And that was the first day we met. And
And I did it.
he did it.
Really?
And
And
what
he-
did I say when
and
I
he
brought
said
it to
he
you?
said on my desk, said, that's the last cup of coffee I will ever bring you. And I said, okay.
I lied because I brought you like 2
I know, it was fun. But that was kind of the fun thing I like to do. And I did it, and it was cool. So since then, fast forward, has it been 10 years? 12 years? It's been a while
To what?
when we worked at the county.
Yeah, 12.
12 years. Now, fast forward to 2025, Mike Nienhuis is the current chief of police here in the city in which the Legends and Liars Club meets. at the Real Unfiltered Studio here in beautiful Laurie, Missouri. And just recently, he was decorated as the police chief of the state of Missouri, correct?
Police chief of the year for the
Police-
Missouri Police Chiefs Association.
Missouri, so that's
Nice.
pretty cool honor. So that means that he made everybody press hard 4 copies. He's a ticket writing ass, and there you go. But I thought, how can I bring a cop into a fishing show? And I thought, hey, I know how to do this, because I guarantee you, Mike's seen a lot of stuff, and you fish,
Mhm.
and
I
you're
fish.
a sportsman,
That's
and so somewhat, you know,
Sure.
kinda. I fished with a few times.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not
he
very good at
fishes.
it, but I try real hard.
There's a lot of people that way,
Yeah, he's pretty bad, but I'm trying to be nice. So
as you should.
that's all right. He gets the right equipment, but sometimes, you know, they say you have the right equipment, but you just don't know how to use it well.
That's correct.
So
Michael Harlan told me that.
yeah, well, we all told Michael Harlan everything. so-
Exactly. So
Anyway,
I figured it's pretty good information.
which by the way, he had a pretty good weekend too, but he
Yeah.
lost. So anyway,
Yeah, don't ask him now.
probably I bet you he's ass hurt a little bit.
As
Yeah, I would
as
think
you
so.
should be.
Yep.
In his stature, you should be.
Yeah.
If you get beat and you catch that many,
Yeah.
you damn right.
Do you know about that?
You better
They
be
had a
pissed.
summer sizzler single tournament down here, and it's like all the local heavy sticks decided they'd all show up and fish, like 35 or 36 of them. And I mean, if you're going to be a local stick, pretty much the list was there,
It's to try to
Except-
qualify.
except for Dion
It's try to
for the golf tournament.
try to qualify another guy to go to the golf tournament in
Gotcha.
November.
Gotcha.
It's an opportunity for guys who don't fish to get in.
Gotcha. Okay. So there you go. So it's a qualifier,
Yeah.
basically. Okay. And yeah, I would be bent too, because
Sure.
Do you remember the weights were?
Yeah, Michael had 42.
Is that 2 days?
2 day
2
wait.
days.
2 days.
2 day
40,
wait.
42
Yeah,
pounds.
22 the first day and 20 the second day, and Lawson had 20 the first day and
24.
right at 25 the last
Yeah,
day.
24 and change. And you and I can both agree on this, because we've spent some time on the water in the last couple of weeks too. That's, for this time of year, is phenomenal.
That's whacking them.
That's crazy.
The thing of it
crazy.
is he's been beating around on that for 2 weeks. I
Right.
mean,
In the
He-
same weights.
yeah, he's
Yep.
he's bitched and moaned to me 1,000 times. Every time, man, I don't know why I can't get one of them big ones in the boat. And in the Sizzler even the other day, he lost what he thought was between a 7 and an 8 pounder the first day, and then the second day lost another one over 6, and weighed in a 2.5 pounder the last day. So
Right.
he had one of those gigantic stringers on and just
Yep.
didn't work out.
But both those guys are really good with electronics, and they will literally throw anything in the boat. They will keep trying until they find what they're biting on.
Yeah, I think
Both
there's
of them.
two. I think there's two different styles there.
Correct.
Well,
I really do.
yeah, but Mike's right about one thing. Those two boys have one thing on their mind, and that's beating your ass
Right.
every time they go out there.
Mhm.
They don't go out there with the thought of, oh, well, I hope I catch a few.
I'm gonna have
No.
a good time today fishing
Yeah.
the camaraderie.
No,
of the
there's
whole
no
That's
good
group.
time with
right.
those
No.
two. No.
No.
Those two, when you see them standing around the weigh-in, they don't stand around and talk to everybody. They stand around, they talk to their family, and you can tell how focused they are just by how much bullshitting they do.
Right.
And those two don't. Okay,
Kinda-
and my hat's off to Michael. Lawson had it a little bit easier, and when I say that, he had a grandfather that thought the world of him, that would have taught him everything he could have ever dreamed. Michael really did it by fishing with a few of the locals and fishing in your bass club, and
he figured it out on his own.
yeah, he
I've also
figured a lot
known-
of it out on his own.
I've known Michael since he was a child, and that kid, if he could be on the water and in the boat, he was on the water and in the boat. Didn't mean it was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. He was in a boat on the water fishing.
I
If he
took
couldn't
him
be
and
in the boat, he would be on the dock fishing. That's all he ever did
I
was fish.
took him and Tony Edgar's boy, apparently the first time that they really did any serious bass fishing. I took them out, and you can tell. I mean, it's just like Lawson. You can see it
Right.
when they're that serious and they're that focused. Just when they're out there screwing around with a buddy. You know, they're still
Yeah.
got to win, got to beat. You know, and Michael's one of them ones.
Yep.
He's very serious.
Now that tournament. Those guys both fished. I'm assuming on the lower end.
Lawson did.
Not way upriver. I'm assuming.
No, not way up the river. No.
So we have.
We don't. Most of these guys don't go anywhere far.
Past 31 typically.
No, they don't go anywhere
yeah,
far.
They stay close. Yeah.
Because fishing's too good.
Right.
It's too good everywhere.
Well, the reason I'm saying that is because that happened on Friday. I think it was last day. Thursday
and Friday.
We have our usual monthly bass club that we have, and we have 40, 50 boats typically. And you went out with Dad for a few hours on Thursday when they were catching them. And Dad texted me once and said, "Man, we can't catch nothing." And then at the end of the day, got out a square bill, threw it up on the bank, caught a 4-pounder. And I think, Dad catch one on Shaky Head?
No, he caught
You
it
caught
on
it on
crankbait
crankbait too. So he called me, Dion called me and said, "Hey, not telling you what to do, but those fish are right up on the bank. I mean, really on the bank." He said, "You probably catch them pretty good." I said, "Great." So I felt pretty good about it. And come Saturday, that did not work. It did not work at all. Those fish weren't there.
Well, that's why it's called fishing.
Yeah, that's true. It is to an extent, but
might have been a current oriented deal or something. I don't know.
yeah, and it's fine. And we talk about it a bunch. And there's a spot that we call the Reef, and it's that straight across from the local bar. There's a point out there in front of the bar that we fish, that we know about, and then across from it, there's a long point that runs on the other side of the lake. You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking in code because I don't want anybody to find my spot, even though everybody knows where it's at now.
Yeah.
The one where you said the guys caught the 2 6-pounders after I did not go there.
Yeah.
So this time I went there first because there's current, and when it's current on a main lake point, it's long and thin, and the shad are up on it, and there was a lot of shad on it. I'm like, this is cool. Dad throws out and he catches about a 2.5-pounder in first cast, and I'm like, we're gonna find him stacked up here. And we're gonna fill the boat up. We fished for about another 30 or 40 minutes and never had another bite. So I'm like, okay, we'll come back and we'll check it later, which we never did. But at the end of the tournament, there were some guys that were fishing in the back of that cove, clear at the end. And when they came out, they said, "Hey, we saw you catch that fish. Was it a good one?" I said, "No, not really." They said, "Well, we went back about 2:30 and we caught about 12 pounds off of it, 3 fish." And I just like, I struggle, and I think every angler struggles with, when a fish lives there or resides in a spot, when is the right time to go hit that? I mean, it's just, you'll go to a spot and you'll catch a fish, but I'm starting to get kind of pissed because I'll be fishing the areas that I think a fish resides and it's good fish, and I'll catch short fish, catch a nice keeper, 15, 16-inch fish, and then when I go to weigh in, everyone talks about the exact same spots and they're jacking big fish, and it drives me crazy. And I don't have an answer for that.
I don't have a great answer, but I do know that this time of the year, you have shad spawn happening here, there, and around. 99% of the time, if you have a clear bluebird day, 30 minutes after daylight, shad spawn's over. It's done. Right. Well, that particular day, it was kind of cloudy.
Yep.
So,
sun came out later, but it rained in some areas.
Yes.
It was spotty rain throughout the lake. So did you ever get rain on you? Never did. Did you fish? Did not? Okay.
But it's one of those deals.
You don't count that.
It's one of those deals at this time of the year. Those fish don't feed all day long, but when they do feed, they really feed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really something spectacular to be in on. But when they do that, they don't do it all day long. It's not a 8-hour deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 30-minute window. And if you're there while they're doing it, you're on them. If you're not there, you'll think, wow, I really thought we was going to catch one there. And that's just the way it is. And the only way you do it, you just bounce around. You keep fishing.
Yep.
Fish a lot of different places.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get caught up fishing one spot, but don't be afraid to go back and fish another spot.
Right.
I drove over a spot today, and it's a spot where me and my wife fish a lot. And it's post-spawn is what should be happening there. I drove across it on my way down the lake, and the fish were just clustered on there. I mean, they were just, my depth finder just blacked out with big arcs, and there was a bass boat going by, So I just kept on going. I kept on moving. And
That's called pulling a dummy, by the way.
I got you.
I came back an hour later, hour and a half later, and I pulled out there, and I caught one immediately when I got there. And then I fished, and I fished, and I fished. And I fished it for about an hour with nobody around, and I fished it good and slow. Fished it with a swim bait, fished it with a big jig, throwed a worm out there even a time or two. Nothing. I got on my locator, drove across it. Nothing out there.
Nothing there.
Yeah, and it's like, what in the hell would make them leave? But this time of the year, a lot of times, they'll get after the right school of shad, and they'll just take off swimming
Follow
after them, and just follow them right off at the spot. Until things get kind of in a steady groove with the water level, the current, everything, and get that food to settle in, things can happen periodically.
I think on this lake, that's never going to happen.
Well, it might not this
It's
year. It
weird.
might
It's
not.
last year we were talking it was a weird year because everything ran late and it was weird lake levels, and I think it was no rain. Now we got crap ton of rain and
Everybody loves
wind and
everybody loves to fish the current, okay? Because the current shows you exactly where they're going to be when they're biting.
Mhm.
There's only one problem with the current. It also turns them off.
correct.
If it's not pulling, they'll just wait on it.
You remember like 3 years? I think it was 3 years ago when we had current for like a year. Remember we had all that rain. It was constant current, and then it got to the point. I think we talked about it that they don't relate to it like they normally do.
It's
Like in a river system that has current 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The bass doesn't respond the same in that condition as they do in one that comes on and off, right?
what's amazing is fishing some of the TVA lakes and stuff around the country. You can get on your phone, and you do the same thing here, and you can find out when the current's moving, when it's pulling. But still, you have to keep it in your mind. Okay, when they turn the dam on up at Truman, and then they turn the Bagnell Dam on, there's a certain time when everything's going to start flowing really good.
Lost a picture.
But
Go ahead, you're good.
But you have to understand, if they start pulling out of both dams at 10 o'clock, you may not see it till 11 or noon. Okay?
Go ahead.
And now we're off.
Now we really don't have.
No,
to
it was off. It took a poop.
But
We'll get it figured out here.
but the thing of it is, they can get a little bit fickle,
Fickle? Okay.
where they just want to eat when they want to eat, and the current allows them to do that.
For those of you that are watching us live, just keep paying attention, listen to what we're saying, and I'll get your picture back on. It's all good.
The current's a great thing on any given day, but like I say, until they really get settled into it, it can be a bear, to get the fish used to it. Because they're going to feed more and more actively when it's pulling.
Okay.
So,
Makes sense.
and after you give them a
Kinda.
couple of weeks of it happening every day, it's going to happen. They know it's going to happen sometime today. Current's going to move a little bit. We're going to eat. So when the current's not moving, though, a lot of times they just hang out.
Hey, there you're back.
And another thing you got to keep in mind about low spawn, a lot of those fish, you catch a big old bass and it's skinny as a rail. Got really skinny, nasty looking, and it's because they don't eat real good. There's a time frame there when they're done spawning. They don't eat real good for a little while. It takes them a little bit to get back in the routine of feeding normally.
Yeah, it's just become. I think for a lot of anglers, it becomes more and more difficult because you get the textbooks out and you go back and you pull your 1985 Bassmasters magazine out and you read everything that says this is how these fish are supposed to be. It just seems like it's not the same this year or last year or the year before that, and it just doesn't work. They always say what's a
You have to consider the size of our lake and the fact that last year there wasn't any current,
right.
virtually none. A little bit Well, in the early summer.
But let me test you real quick. Before we came on the show, you said, you know what? I caught some fish today, but they weren't great. But they're still not post spawning yet.
Not a lot
Well,
of
it's the
them.
11th of June.
Not a lot of them.
In my mind, and if I go back and look at other notes, you know where we're at. We're in big worm weather.
Yeah.
We should be throwing big 10-inch worms and catching fish. And yeah, I mean, so, and
They're not totally done.
yeah, so it's just weird, right?
The weather, the water going up and down, everything about it had an effect on it.
You know,
Cool nights. I mean, it's still some chilly nights. Water temperature's still cold.
Do you think I haven't got to fish all over the country like you guys have, and I don't know what kind of pressure those other lakes have that have decent fishing on them. But this lake seems to never have not have a boat on it. It seems like there's always fishing. There's always some kind of pressure.
We might disagree on this.
I'm going to explain something to you about that. We have no fishing pressure.
I was going to say, this lake has no pressure.
Okay.
Compared to, yeah.
I just know.
This lake here, we have a lot of fishing pressure in March to May, and then September to November. That's the only time they fish. The rest of the time, everybody leaves them alone with them big boats.
Right.
You know, there's about 30 real serious guys that fish these 3-hour tournaments, and every now and then an all-day one, but an all-nighter, stuff like that. But still, there's only about 30 or 40 of them. You go to Lake Guntersville this time of year, you won't get a parking spot if you're not there by daylight.
Yeah, and we're not hammering on you.
No,
It just sounds like we're hammering on you, but damn, what are you talking about? No, I'm kidding. No kidding.
The TVA lakes,
Texas lakes,
Pickwick, all of, Kentucky Lake, all of them get an enormous amount of fishing pressure compared to ours.
but they probably have 10% of the recreational boating that we do. Or we have 90% recreational boating. There's a reason why we're the number 2 in the United States for power boating. Because that next to Florida, which is an ocean. It's nuts. But yeah, and I think
number 3 in boating accidents on our continent.
Yeah. It's kind of awesome.
First is the Atlantic, second is the Pacific, and then us.
And then like the Ozarks. Yep, you knew that though, didn't you?
I did.
Yep. Which kind of getting to the point why I had you on, so you actually have a chance to talk. I was thinking, is there anything as a police officer, you've been the majority of your life, that you can share with anglers on how to be better on the road with their trucks and trailers? Do you see things? I'll give you an example. This I was telling Amanda this afternoon. I said, sportsmen are terrible about transporting stuff. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, have you guys ever seen somebody that put their deer on the back of their truck, right? And it's hanging off the back, and the horn and the hose are getting ground off going down the asphalt? And she's like, I have never seen that. I said, are you joking me?
I'll put it a better way. What gets me stopped?
Yeah, there you go. Here we go. What gets a boater pulled over?
By you.
No tail lights, no license plate. These are like legit things that we do all the time. Sometimes you'll hook your boat up and it'll short out your actual tail light on your truck. That'll get you stopped. Some anglers will follow other anglers a little too close when they don't know where they're going. That will also get you.
What is too close?
Mostly a judgment thing. Depending on your speed, they're saying a car length for every 10 miles an hour that you're going. So if you're going
30,
you're going 30.
Does that include the trailer?
If you're pulling a trailer, you should have 6 lengths. That's the way I look at it. But I'm not a guy that's going to stop people for following those.
I tailgate. If I can rub the prop, I might.
Fish with highway patrol.
Rubbins racing, is that what you're trying to do?
No, I guess, and I did used to race. I raced dirt, but that's irrelevant. I don't think I'm a really good with my depth perception when I drive. And because I don't think it's a problem, and then when somebody else gets in the car, my dad's like, Jesus, will you stop riding up their ass? And I'm like, doesn't feel like it's that bad. And then Amanda's like, man, I'm getting itchy. And I'm like, why? It's like, I can't see the taillights anymore. And I'm just like, I'm not hitting them. She goes, if they hit the brakes, you're going to hit them. I said, well, we have insurance. It's all good. So, anyway.
I can't tell you that most anglers that I've stopped in the 32 years I've been in law enforcement have been very good, have had very little problems with
So I've known you, and I think to be unfiltered tonight, I think you treat people how they treat you. If they're respectful, you're respectful. If they come up and they say, "What the hell do you want, asshole?"
Right. Now we have two problems.
It's a problem. Yeah, it's gonna be a problem. And I don't want to get into the etiquette of how to deal with law enforcement because they're all corrupt. But anyway.
Okay.
I could ask.
Look at okay.
I could ask.
I'm just relax.
I could ask him when was the first time he stopped Shannon Beckman.
When?
Because I know he got stopped.
Well, actually, I didn't stop him, but there was another deputy I was working with that dealt with him coon hunting one time.
Oh.
This was like 95 or 96. Yeah, it was quite the experience.
Me and him.
Talk.
Why? He hasn't asked me a question yet.
There you go.
Man.
You talk so loud all day long. You get on a microphone and he talks like a little girl. You hear him?
Me and Shannon.
Well,
Me and
Okay.
Shannon
and
fished the
when he's got his
highway.
shirt on, he's like, "Respect my authority. I have a gun and a taser." Put him on the show, and you're like, "Yeah, I sound like Michael Jackson." See? There you go. Go ahead. Sorry.
Me and Shannon fished the Highway 5 when it went out of
He knew. He did.
not
Absolutely.
F-road. Anyways, we blew my boat up the first day. So we had Shannon. Well, I was driving. But my boat blew up the first day, so we had Shannon boats the second day. When I showed up at his house in the morning to tie it on to the back of my truck. And when I say tie it on, I physically thought, we would stand a better chance. We just used a piece of rope, to haul this thing from Stover, Missouri down to Laurie, Missouri. And I told him when we hooked it up, I said, "There's no way we're making it through Laurie, Missouri without me getting a ticket." He's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. It'll be all right." I mean, not a light on the damn thing. I mean, one tire that went down the road was just to get this. I mean, but that's the way he did things.
Right.
His boat looked the same way.
So we're talking about Shannon Beckman, who was a tremendous angler down here at Lake
Yeah.
Ozark.
Absolutely.
Passed away 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So not making fun of it, we're going to because we'll tell a lot of Shannon Beckman. We should have a Shannon.
His crap was so.
Who could we have one to do a show that would know him as well as us? Lawson, Rusty. Yeah, maybe have all four on do that. We do a Shannon show. That's pretty good.
How well he would have done if he had high.
No, that didn't matter.
No, I know. But I'm just
I
saying,
think if I make him better than he had crap.
If he would have had really, really awesome stuff to fish with, he'd have had it in that shape in 30 minutes.
Exactly.
Yep.
Or he'd have left it at home and brought
Yeah,
the other stuff.
one of the two. I mean,
I think I've told both of you this story before, but he was fishing a crappie tournament. I was emceeing the tournament, and the owner of the organization talked to him and Shannon, and they were out in the parking lot up at Truman for 30 minutes. They'd already taken off, went fishing. And he's like, he said, "Mike don't come up to the afternoon anyway, and I wanted to get in a big hurry." And they were visiting. Just like, let everybody trailer off and go fishing, no big deal. It'd be like at a bass tournament, the bike comes on at noon. It's like, why schlep around for 3 hours? I'm just going to sit here and drink coffee, and I don't really give a crap. I mean, that's pretty confident, But when he parked, he had the biggest crap boat and trailer you've ever seen in your life. I mean, it was terrible. When he got ready to leave, there was a trough that drained water, and when he parked, the trailer of the boat set perfectly in that little trough. So he had to give the truck a little bit of gas to take off. And when he gave it gas to finally take off and leave, him, the truck, the trailer, and the boat left, but the axles stayed right where they were. And he drove it right off the axles, and it was sitting right in that trough, and he went, "Son of a bitch." So they backed it back up, they picked it up and leaned it, and they wedged it back into there, and they took come-along straps, like toe straps, wrapped around it so they could back it in the trailer, back in the water. So they pull it out, and it's like, it's cattywampus, they park it, they go fishing. They said, "I'm going to call my dad, they'll come up and take care of it." I went over there, and they had 2 flat tires, because when they drug it, they popped the tires on it too. So I called him on the cell phone, and I said, "Hey, I just want to let you know you've got flat tires." He's like, "Dude, don't bother me, I'm fishing." He's like, "That's my dad's problem, it ain't mine at this point." And I was thinking, good Lord. But that was kind of one of the things that kind of how he operated. But the other one that I really liked was he had a little Ranger boat, and he came up to me once and said, "Hey, I think I figured out this live boat situation." And I said, "Live boat?" He said, "Live well, you don't know about. Shut up." I said, "Okay. What is it?" And he said, "Well, my crappie keep dying. And they keep talking about putting oxygen and doing all this stuff." I said, I was walking back on the back of the boat, and I fell through my lid. And I said, you fell? He said, yeah, I stepped on it, and I fell through. He said, those fish stayed alive. He said, hell, I took the other lid off, too. I ripped it off. He said, I don't have a problem with fishing anymore. He said, they get plenty of air now. But they were so rotten that when he stepped through it, he fell through the live well, and he's like, and all of a sudden he said, it was like, a light came on. He's like, these lids are too tight on these boats. He said, they can't get any good air in them.
Well, think about what they're doing right now. They're venting them.
They're putting vent caps in them.
Putting a vent in them.
He was before his time.
That's right. That's right.
But
it kind of reminded me of like comments and stuff you was talking about your dad. You kind of look at things with different lenses, but sometimes you do things. You say, fishing. A lot of things are done by accident. Well, there's an example. It's like, hey, you know what? You put extra air in there, your fish stay alive. Yeah, no kidding. You get an oxygen bottle, just open the lid. Like except for an old bass will jump out.
Yeah, a bass would jump out.
Yeah, he will jump out. So yeah. So you got nothing?
No, you did good.
You ever see anything weird? Like fishermen? Like you're driving down the road, you're following a cop,
He
and
lives on Lake of the Ozarks.
I know you follow.
Some of it I don't think I can really, even though this is unfiltered, I really don't think I can talk about it. That's the problem.
You see people have sex down the road on a boat?
Yes.
Really?
The first traffic stop that I made with a boat.
That's good enough the first time.
With a boat.
Trailer motoring down the road.
A Jeep went by pulling a boat.
That's impressive.
No taillights. Turn around on it. This one's working for Stover. I just started. I'd been on like 6 months. And I pull up there, stop them, go out to the truck. There's literally 4 women naked in this Jeep. And I'm like, you don't have any taillights. And she's like, okay, what are you going to do about that? I said, you're not leaving until you get them fixed. You have to at least have like flashers because it's dark. And she was going to go down 135. You all know, you live here, 135 is a horrible road during the day, let alone at night. So she goes, okay. So she pulls her pants on. She gets out of the Jeep. She still doesn't put a shirt on or a bikini top. She just...
Which it's illegal in Missouri to be topless, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So
do you know that?
I did not.
So
Yeah, you can be a female and topless in Missouri. It's legal.
So she's getting out. So
Just so you know.
she's doing all the wire
You
checks.
can't even get it for a decent exposure, right?
No.
Gotcha.
So she does all the wire checks, and then I see a trooper drive by, and then he pulls in. And he gets out. He walks up there. He sees kind of what's going on, and he just tips his hat, and he goes back, gets in his car, and drives off. He don't want to have any.
I'm not getting in the middle of
nothing to do with it. Yeah, he don't want nothing to do with it. So she,
exactly.
they get the hazards working. I'm like, okay, cool. Have a nice night. Just be careful. Okay, so they leave. So the next morning, this trooper finds the boss, the chief at the time. And he says, hey, I got to give your guy credit. He made sure that trailer had trailer lights on it. And the chief's like, why'd you do that? And I said, it's the law. You need to make sure you have trailer lights. And the trooper said, probably helped all 4 women in that Jeep were naked. So I'm not sure if that's what it was or what. Because I'm telling you, when I started in '94, I was quite the blue flame, and I was all about the law.
You still kind of are.
Yeah, but there's some gray now. Not just in my hair. There's actually some gray now. And I understand that if you treat people with respect, you try to. Most of the time, you get that respect back.
We talk about weed a lot.
Weed?
Mike and I. Weed,
oh yeah.
Marijuana.
Yep.
Because it's legalized in Missouri, and the laws are so weird. And I say this, it's not for show, so we can talk about weed, right? Just for a moment. There's things that maybe you know or don't know. It's legal to smoke in your home. It's legal to smoke and grow it at home in Missouri. It's legal to buy it and take it home. But you can't smoke it in public. You can't smoke it in city buildings or parks. And you can't smoke in your car, right?
Well, you're not supposed to smoke it. Yeah.
But that's
It's technically against the law, yes.
Yeah. Kind of weird, right? See?
I didn't know.
But it really doesn't. But you can't use it as probable cause to pull somebody over if smoke's coming out of the car.
Correct.
Because they vape and smoke cigarettes and everything else.
Correct.
So, for all you potheads out there, you can still blow it out the window, but you may have a vape stick in there too and cover your trail. Anyway.
Kind of a rough subject, right?
Can you smoke? Rough subject?
Marijuana? Yeah. It's kind of a rough
It's
subject.
got to be hard for you.
Well, it's one of those things where it's still legal federally, but it's not through the state.
Right.
So if you get caught
can't
with
charge
you get caught with enough of it,
Yeah.
you could be charged with a federal.
How much is
felony.
too much?
That ain't for me to decide. That's what they pay attorneys for.
Okay. Well, I mean,
Prosecutors.
so if you make a big bus, you just like pass it off and say,
I
did
can
my
tell
job,
you.
and
I can
figure
tell
it
you
out.
that if I stopped somebody and they had pounds of marijuana, I would be
Right.
talking to a federal district attorney.
Gotcha. I was going to ask you about the riots in LA,
Okay.
and I thought if we had riots here, and then I thought, well, we won't have riots here because we only have one illegal, and that's Julio Ignatius, and it's Robert. Yeah, it's my long guy. My long guy.
Poor Robert.
But we don't mess with him because he just does his own
He
thing.
does a good job.
He
So we
does.
wouldn't have riots down here because we have one immigrant. So
The problem with the riots, and it happens everywhere. When we had Ferguson. And,
we don't need to get in politics.
No, I'm just going to talk about the riot.
Does it relate to hunting or fishing?
Say again.
Does it relate to hunting
I
or
mean,
fishing?
technically they're hunting.
Oh no! Here we go. Go ahead. All right, go ahead.
The problem isn't the people in LA. They're not the ones causing the riot. It's all the people that come in from Chicago, New York, all those other big cities that want to just cause nothing but strife. And that's where they go, and then they get everything on fire and get everybody riled up, and then they leave. Well, they're not the ones. They don't live there.
Right.
So that's the biggest problem. They had the same problem in Ferguson. Business owners were hiring security to sit on their buildings to protect their buildings from the rioters. And
They
the
were gonna
rioters,
shoot 'em.
rioters were not from Missouri. So
Right.
that's the problem.
Right.
When you talk about rioters, or looters.
Have you
and
watched
things
any
like
of the news in LA, the riots? So they're rioting great big, but I watched it this morning. I slept in, by the way.
I know.
I slept
Remember
in
I came here at 10 o'clock in the morning and
to bring my
served
paperwork.
something?
Yeah, I got you. So I was watching the news. There was a bunch of people breaking into a clothing store, and they were running out, and there was like 15 cops outside the door. And it was like, I'm not trying to make it to a racist thing or anything else, but it was kind of like, have you ever seen that sport where they feral hog hunt with knives?
Yes.
And have you ever seen that?
It's called spearing.
Spearing, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're trying to, there's every race, okay, so I mean, it's not, they're all running out with all the stuff, and they're like just trying to like grab one, and they're trying to wrestle them down, and they're fighting, some of them get away, some of them don't, it's like wrangling cats, and they were getting them down, zip tying them really quick, and there was like this, it was funny because they just kept running out, and it was like, and they just kept trying to grab them, and it was like, what is wrong here? This is like nuts.
But you know that China has a riot going on too.
Yeah, they just shoot them over there.
Well, no, their answer was they sprayed them all with a blue dye. So
Nice.
that does not come off. So if you
You
go home,
we're gonna find you
and now
later.
you're sprayed with blue dye, then the Chinese police and military is going to get you, and now you have a whole new problem. So,
That's interesting.
yeah, I thought it was kind of cool.
That's a neat concept.
Mark
I
Tucker,
wonder if you can dye a coat, and then when a boat comes back and their whole like they pull out this purple, and it's like, I know where you were, bitch.
Mark Tucker lived in Ferguson, and he said the same thing that Mike said. It wasn't the locals. The locals fought as hard against those people
Yes.
as anybody. But it was the busloads of people that came in from Memphis and
Chicago.
other parts of the world that were there to protest. Simple as that. It wasn't the people that were there. It wasn't the people that were shot. They were not. It was not them.
Right.
Everywhere else in the world. And you know, I don't know if that's political or what it is, but
We can have a political show one day. Let's not go there today.
yeah.
Change the subject. Has the Conservation Department ever asked you for mutual aid?
Yes.
What kind of stuff?
Let's see, when I worked for the sheriff's office, we helped them work the decoy deer a couple times. We did
Robo deer?
We did it on an FF a couple times, and then we did it
I think
on,
you've arrested a couple of my friends.
probably. We did it on Old 8 a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know who he is.
Okay, right
Your
now.
friends too.
It's a whole new
Related
experience
to
when you got hunters and you know what's getting ready to happen. And you're within striking distance from them or the deer. I mean, you have to be close enough to the decoy that you can make it work.
Nobody's ever been violent on something like that, have they?
Oh, no.
Like I'm going to shoot you instead and try to get
No.
away with it?
No, it's just the fact that, you're literally laying in the weeds either next to the decoy or next to the road, and this guy's getting ready to shoot a 308 or a 30-06, and you're looking at yourself going, none of this armor I got is going to stop anything he's shooting.
Yep.
So if it goes south, hopefully it goes quick. So
I'm going to ask your opinion.
oh, I also did a boat one time too. That was kind of fun.
The what?
Fishing boat. I went out with a conservation fishing boat. Rubbed some luck on the fishing permit.
That's the line.
That's their line.
Yeah. You rub a little luck on your
Let me
license.
rub a little luck on your fishing permit.
It's
Funny when the guy said, no, go rub it on somebody. I did say that. No, go rub it on somebody else's. Leave me alone.
Go rub it on somebody else. I lost my train of thought.
But that was years ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah. Went
I
out
don't
and
think they
counted bald
asked.
eagles with them in the wintertime. That was cold. Don't ever do that. It was really cold.
Do you know I found a dead bald eagle last year?
Really?
Please tell me you didn't keep it.
No, absolutely
Oh.
not. It was floating in the lake.
Okay.
And I called and said, I called the conservation department and said, hey, I found this here. I can't find any hole, and I'm not touching it.
Smart man.
Yeah, and they said, well, where is it? And they said, okay. They said, put it in the bag. Go ahead and take it. Grab it by its talons and put it in a trash bag and take it uptown. I'm like, okay. And it was a juvenile bird, and I have never, obviously, not many people have been able to grab a bald eagle, right? Have you ever grabbed a dead bald eagle?
I've grabbed live ones.
Really?
Yep.
I knew you were crazy.
Their talons and their legs are massive. Pretty crazy.
Size your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Turns out this bird was either sick or had they think it might hit a power line or something and then drifted down. Because they track where those birds generally are. So they have an idea where they hatch and where they are. So
We
it's interesting.
actually caught one by the big toe in a trap.
Really?
In a coon trap. They eat the same thing, shad,
Correct.
different things, and we caught one by the big toe, big bald eagle, and we pulled into it, and I said, what we got to do? Because when you get up close to one of them, up close and personal,
They're big.
it's
big.
waist high.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's every bit of waist high.
Yep,
Bad to the
their
bone.
wingspan 6.5 to 7 feet.
But when we pull into it with a John boat, we pull up just to the side of it, and as soon as we pulled in the boat and it hit on the rocks, this whole eagle just fell up on its back, put its claws in the air, but it laid back on its wings. And my brother laid his coat over it, reached down, took the trap off of him, reached down, picks up his coat, and it laid there until we pushed away from the bank. We pushed away from the bank. It stood up real big and plain, shook its hand. It's like, oh shit, that hurt. Shook its paw real big. And we never, ever, that eagle watched us all trapping season.
Really?
Every time you looked up, you could see it somewhere in the air. And Dad said, that's don't want to get caught again,
He knows what's going on.
And he followed us and watched us.
There is a permit you can get in Missouri. It's called a falconry permit. You ever seen that? I've been reading about that. I think I kind of want to get into that a little bit.
You don't have enough to do.
Yeah, I know, but it'd be really cool to own a falcon. You know how they catch them? You would have fun. I think it'd be fun catching them more than it would be to anything else. So you catch a wild falcon and you train them to go out and hunt and kill, and then they come back to you. It's like a homing pigeon, basically. So what they
Giant homing
do
pigeon.
is they take a little box, like a little screen box, and they put guinea pigs in them. And then on the top, they take fishing line and they wrap it like when you pull it off and you make a big ball. They wind it in, they zip tie it on top of the cage. When the falcon swoops down to get them, they get their tails all tied up in the monofilament. They just go over and untangle them, and put a little leather hood on their head, and take them home and beat them into submission.
There you go.
It's kind
I
of cool.
don't think beating them into submission will have this.
That's not how falcons work.
Probably not.
Gotcha. Well, you train them. So yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Kind of cool. That'd be kind of fun, right?
It'd be different, yeah, for sure.
He's like, "Come on, Buck, let's go!" And you take them out, and you're like, "Get them!" And they go out and they bring you back a squirrel. It's kind of fun, man.
There's nothing I like better than watching a good animal work, watching a good dog,
Oh, yeah.
or something like that. I mean,
Yeah. I'm sure you work with a falcon the same way. But that'd be kind of fun. You got to catch a juvenile one, because the adult ones you can't train. Kind of like getting you to,
Live scope.
I would like to.
Right, exactly.
I would like to train about a 7-pound spotted bass.
It's
Any
easy.
training.
That's I think training a fish is easy.
I'd like to see that.
You did. Remember that bass you had over there?
Because I think
What do you had in your hand?
I think a giant spotted bass would be fun to watch.
Just to watch you.
He's tough. I watched that one down at the Bass Pro Shop.
Yep.
He ruled the freaking tank. There was fish in there almost 3 times bigger than he was, and he still ruled the tank.
Yeah, spotted bass are mean.
They are.
It goes back to conversation I had with your dad, because I was trying to figure out how to cheat bass without cheating. Not serious. I mean, it's what I would call gaining, the gray areas of the rules. Okay? Then I sit down with your dad and say, I want to have a conversation just between the two of us.
This is not about Scott Martin, okay?
No, not at all. This is because I had
He's
this.
made a great living.
I had this really good idea, and something wasn't quite jiving with it, So I had to talk to somebody that I knew would know. So I sit down after hours, sitting here, and I said, I got to talk to you about something. I said, I don't want you to be judgmental or angry. I said, I want to throw something by you, see what your thoughts are. He's like, all right. I said, have you ever seen orange construction fence? The plastic stuff like snow fence that they string up around construction areas. I said, a bass really can't swim through it, but it's built. I said, if you go to the back of the narrow cove or a creek, string that across the water where it's about this far, like 2 or 3 inches under the water, and leave about 50 yards to the back of the cove. You're basically making a pin. And you catch 20, 30, 35, 3 to 5 pound fish. Put them over the fence. And then every week you feed them. Pavlov's theory of repetition. You feed them, ring the bell, feed them, ring the bell. 10 o'clock, I'm going to go throw 500 crawdads in there. Every time. Come tournament day, roll in there and put a spook over the top of the water and catch them. Is that cheating? You know what he said? No, it's not. He said, there's something sportsmanlike.
Is it morally wrong? Absolutely.
He said it's unsportsmanlike. He said there are rules that call for sportsmanship to protect the sport. He said that is unsportsmanlike. Cannot. And I went, shit. That was a great idea.
Bobby Sullivan down at Table Rock Lake owned a marina. He had a 6-pounder he could catch anytime he wanted. Mm-hmm. And it was a bet. I mean, it was truly a bet. You know what? 6-pounder goes a long ways in a bass tournament. And I asked him several times. I'm like, how many times do you take old Buford during the weigh-in? And he never would fess up to it, never would talk about it. But you think about it.
It'd be interesting to know if he actually did, that fish actually returned back every time and allowed to be caught again. There's a lot to be said about that, and how many times he told mortality getting.
Yeah.
I don't know. Kind of interesting, right?
Absolutely.
So every time I think of a gray area in the rules, and basically and I think what it comes down to is, I think one time I want to find like a fundraiser tournament, like for a really good cause, and I'm going to cheat my ass off. I mean, cheat. I know it sounds really bad, but I mean, like, if it's like for Make-A-Wish or one of these tournaments, I want to pre-catch like 20, 25 pounds and win, and then donate all the money. And it makes you look really cool. Just give all the money back. That'd be really cool. But
keep one thing in mind.
He's got to catch him first.
Two things. Two things. Keep one thing in mind. It doesn't matter how you cheat or what you do to cheat. You're forever known as
a cheater.
Right. You never get that one back.
There's a couple other things that you would.
There's a couple other things.
Yeah. I've never actually do it. There's just always things in my mind, and I guess we're getting closer and closer to the cheater show anyway. Even though we don't want to. Yeah.
All right.
And I think I've been thinking about it a lot, because we've seen and I've seen it over the years, and you've seen even more. There are very specific ways to cheat in tournaments. And I think there's ways that we can talk about it to let anglers know what to look for without telling them exactly what they're doing.
A buddy of mine.
Don't you agree?
Sure.
There might be ways to do that. So straight out saying, hey, here's what we've seen. This is how people have been caught. This is what they do. So it doesn't encourage people to cheat. But if you see a guy doing these things, it's not good.
Yeah.
You know, like for example, if you have two bass boats floating in the middle of the lake at 2 o'clock, and it looks like they're passing things back and forth from the boat, odds are I'm not doing what you're supposed to do. I mean, because if I roll up on you and you're fishing against each other, we generally don't touch boats. We're good 20 yards apart from each other going, you catch them? No. Me either. Bye.
I'm one worse than that. I don't like guys pulling their boats out to land.
No, me either.
That irritates the crap out of me when guys pull their boats out and then go to the weigh-in. Because nobody can see that parking lot.
No,
there's not people
I have
to police that.
I have seen it on one of the night tournaments. And I'm not going to say names of which tournament, but it happened with a very respectable angler. And I'm going to give both sides the story. Parked way up top of the hill. Came down with the fish, and he said, what's it taking to leave? And I said, 15 pounds, and he went, oh, I forgot to fish the boat. And he goes back up, gets another fish, and he wins the tournament. Now, he came down with 4, came back with 5. But the thing is, why would you ask that question when then all of a sudden realize you missed forgot to fish? Because you were holding too many fish, didn't have the right fish in the bag. You know, I think there was probably 10 fish in there and didn't want to make it obvious to everybody. But I don't know. But he also got his life threatened that night too. Because the tournament director came up and said, you ever do that again, A, we're going to whip your ass, and B, you're never going to fish a tournament again. And that's kind of old school rules. But
A buddy of mine from Camden, Missouri, old-time fisherman. I mean, fished BASS years ago. But as he got older, you know, he got to where he just wouldn't go get out. So he fished around the Grand Glades. It's the only place he put his boat in to go out and fish around the Grand Glades. It would blow you away how many different live boxes he found.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's no houses in there. For the most part, the Glades is state park. There's no houses in there. But this is a guy that's a hunter, a trapper, a fisherman, and he got to where he just watched any little string laying on the bank, any little piece of rope hanging out of a tree or something like that. And he said, blew him away how many different live boxes he found. Now our theory on that is, you know, most of the tournaments that we fish give lie detectors, you know, and I don't fish any that won't, for the most part. So what are they beating you out of? Are they beating you out of that $500? You know, are they beating you out of, you know, $1,000 a week? Something like that.
That's $52,000 to do it every week.
That's right.
A lot of money.
It doesn't matter if you're beating me out of 10 cents. It's freaking wrong. You shouldn't do it. I was actually, I had the guy that they caught the FLW tournaments do it in front of me. And I turned him in. I protested him. And they didn't do anything about it in that particular tournament. But he came right in front of me. I pulled in. Drove down, jumped up there, gonna fish 3 dots, and this guy cranks up on the opposite side of the lake, runs over in front of me, stops on the opposite side of the dock that I am fishing. And I immediately, as soon as he jumped over his shoulder, I said, really? I said, you gonna do this? I said, because I got bad news for you, Slim. I said, you're not that big old boy. I said, I'm going to whoop your ass if you pull in front of me. And he says, Dion, he says, this is the only bite I've had on this whole bank. He says, I'm going to, making up a story. This is the only spot I've had a bite over here. He said, if you'll let me make a cast or two, he says, I'll leave it to you and you'll never see me again. He pulls to the back crack in the dock, you know, in between styrofoam. Pitches under there, and he works it real slow. Doesn't move his rod. He just barely jiggles his rod. And then he makes another pitch, does it again, says it's a 6-pounder. And as soon as he set the hook, I told him, dude, I said, I don't know what you just did. But I said, you're not weighing that sunbuck in. I said, because that is wrong. I said, to boot, being unsportsmanlike, is one thing. But I said, that was cagey.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you knew that fish. He said, I told you I had a bite there. I said, no. I said, if you knew it was there, you should have come over here. I said, it's 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
If you knew there were 6 rounders down there, you would have come got it first. I said, because this is old Hickory Lake and fishing sucks.
Yep. And they bite best first shot in the morning.
Normally, yeah.
Biggest fish bites in the early morning. Yep.
And 6 months later, they caught him. They caught him down in Baton Rouge. You know, and his brother. We don't want to go into it.
Sure.
But they did have a pretty slick way of cheat.
Yep. We both knew a guy we fished against that was definitely cheating, and I always tell people the story. They were pro-am, and this guy signed up to fish, and the tournament director told Dion, I fished second today, something like that, you know. He says, this guy's really on it. He says, hey, buddy, Dion, how much you getting? What? How much you getting? He said, we know he's cheating, so you obviously got to be getting a cut. He's like, no, he isn't. Sure enough, a year later, $60,000 later, they caught him. And we'll tell you after the show. You come up to me, I'll tell you all the tricks.
His name is Old Tormino.
That's right.
I don't care who
Tormino. Yep. He had a pretty good system. It was a good system. It really was.
It worked for a while.
Because he fished with amateurs and got away with an amateur in the boat. Yep. That's good stuff.
And the thing of it is, they made sure he fished with somebody in
the
boat.
alibi. Yeah. I mean, to be able to successfully cheat and catch a fish that has been contained, is the right word?
Yeah.
Is impressive. I mean, that's impressive. You have to do a lot of practice on that. But you could do the work to be a good sportsman and catch fish the right way.
Be a good angler.
Yeah. It was, you know, I was fishing on Sherman a lot. And you know, when you have somebody, a cameraman that tells you, you know, hey, you know, good luck today, but tomorrow this guy's going to win. I'm like, really? How do you know this? I said, because I've been winning. Oh, well, he's been winning everything down here. I said, no, I live here. I said, no, I fish every tournament they have on Sherman Lake. And I said, I've won them all in the last month. I said, there's been 3 good tournaments, and I've won all 3 of them. And I said, I win them with about 16 pounds. I said, so if he's going to catch 20 pounds, I would like to see that. And they said, well, by golly, you ought to fish tomorrow. And I did. And I put my money in. I
see it for yourself. And he caught 20 pounds.
He caught 20 pounds. And my dad was standing there, and my dad walked straight to the tournament director. He says, you need to do something about that. He said, you know what you want to do? He said, I gave him black. Dad said, I don't care. He said, that's something about cheated. Somehow, some way.
I don't know. I know this is unrelated, but I find it fascinating because I watch a lot of political news, and on the news they're now saying that polygraph and lie detector tests, you might as well not even take them.
Correct.
I mean, don't even need to take them because they're just so unreliable anymore that they're just not even. You can't even.
Well, it's actually kind of different. They all push to this one called the CVSA, the voice stress analysis. Well,
is that what they strapped to you?
No. And then they said, oh, this cats me out. It's the best, blah, blah, blah. And polygraph's trash. They ask you way too many questions. You can manipulate your answers, all that stuff. Well, now
they do it medically too.
Well, now
it's
completely 180 to now the CVSA isn't as reliable as everybody thought it was. And now the polygraph is back on top.
Really? There was
I had one of those guys. I brought him in the tournament, and he told me, he said, you know, well, I give polygraphs to this organization and that organization. I said, tell me about it. I said, I don't fish anything that could cheat in. But I said, tell me about it. He said, all I can tell you is if I want you to fail, you will fail.
Correct.
He said, that's just as simple as that. I said, so how do guys get by with it? He said, well, they're never asked the proper question.
Mm-hmm.
The right question is never spit out.
There was a real quick. There was a gal in Mississippi. I wish I remember her name. She was a retired highway patrolman. She was in forensics, and she did lie detection. She was retired, and she did it for fishing tournaments. When she came in, I couldn't find her when I called her, and she's like, "Yeah, I was like, no problem." She's like, "I'm on." She had a horse farm. She's like, "I'll bring my stuff and stuff." So we could get the tournament wiped down. If you've ever been around tournaments where you have this kind of deal, they take you back into like a private room or like a section of the weigh-in trailer where be alone. This gal now, she put him right in the middle of the stage. Cleared everything out. She right here, lifts you up, strap you in, do it. And I'm like, you need some like space. It's like, why? They're gonna cheat out here. They're gonna cheat in there. It's like everybody can watch if they want. It's like, well, he has response for, you know. And like, all right. She did the winner, put him right on the stage. I should have turned the camera back on.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And everybody got to see it.
Those were most likely CVSAs. If they were asking like a general 6 or 7 questions, and then they ask the same
quick.
6 or 7 questions again.
Quick.
Yeah, those are CVSAs. Those are voice stress analysis.
Yeah.
A polygraph, what they get you in a polygraph is the pre-test questions.
Right.
They ask you a plethora of questions and ask you the same question like 10 different ways, and that's where they get you in a lie. They know you're lying before they even hook you into the instruments,
right.
Because they've already proven it in the actual paperwork.
It's kind of fascinating, but I lost my distaste for it when I was fishing crappie tournaments. There was a couple of guys, one was an ambulance director and another guy was a firefighter, and they had figured out how to medicate themselves prior to a polygraph. They were using drugs that were in the ambulance to sedate themselves to where they had a baseline where they never had an increase or decrease in their response. They basically comatose themselves so in there. So it was like, who's going to take the test? It's like, I will. I want just a minute. And they would go and hit him with a needle. They would hit him with whatever drug that was.
Cheaters are going to be cheaters.
Yeah. I always say they're not cheaters. They're bank robbers. They just pick a different bank.
Yep.
Same
bank.
thing.
Not it out of your pocket.
Yeah, cheaters. I mean, I'm trying to think the way because I look at things a little different lens. When you say cheat, I think a cheater is somebody who, I'll give you an example. Catch fish on the dock cable. All right. When we fished tournaments, they said there was no rules. You walk up on the dock and take them off. Now, you catch a 6-pounder, you grab him over the cable and you get off on the dock and you take your net with you and you net it, and you go weigh him in. To me, that's cheating.
Yeah.
To me, that's cheating. You know, and a lot of guys do it.
Now you can do it and just get penalized.
Right. That I think is cheating. People who go and place fish, baskets, or however they do it, that's a thief. And I think there's a difference between a cheater and a thief. And so those guys, their intent all the way through
was to do that.
That's a thief. A cheater is a guy who takes an opportunity during a tournament and says, I'm going to do a rule infringement and hope I don't get caught. That's cheating. Two different levels there. And so, which I don't say either one's better than the other. But I've been known to cheat. You know, I've stepped up on a dock without my lure. I've trespassed, which is a violation of state law, which is in the area if you don't follow all the laws of state cheating. My favorite one is, and our club does it every time, is during certain summer boats in Missouri, you must make a catch and release decision when you catch a fish.
July.
In July, right? So in July, and I told this to everybody.
If you put it in your mind, well, you're supposed to keep it.
That's correct. So this is my argument. If everybody in the tournament agrees to do that, so you catch a 3-pound fish, you take it out of the water, and you say, I must make a catch and release decision right now. I'm going to keep this 3-pounder and I put it in my live well. I do that 5 times. Your day's over, right? Once you get your 5th fish, your day's over. So you go into weigh, you take your fish out of the live well and you weigh them, and you know what they do? You let them go. And you know what that is? It's a violation of state law. So everybody that does that in a tournament is in a sense cheating because they violated the conservation code law. So it doesn't matter. So like you might as well call. My opinion.
I got into that in the youth tournaments back when my sons used to fish. It wasn't my kid. It was actually Blake that owns one of the owners of Pro Choice, Rena. He had been out there and he came in. Well, he caught him good. And when I say he caught him good, he caught 2 or 3 small fish. Well, he came in and one of the other kids' dads that was with him told on him. And they were going to disqualify him because he actually sold fish, turned them back. And I said, no, you cannot do that because everybody else. I said, all right, boys. I said, here's a chance for everybody to come clean. How many of you culled fish today? Half the field raised their hands. I said, good boys. You're at least sticking together.
Yeah.
Okay? Because the tournament director had not told them that
rule.
law.
Yeah.
Was that effective?
Yeah, and it was a law. And did that kid break the law? Yep, he sure did. But nobody enforces that. That's not a law that anybody enforces.
That one time they showed the tournament,
Yes.
the conservation Gestapo, they were going to get that.
But
Now,
they were going to have this kid, and it was going to cost that kid going to the Bassmaster Classic.
But the
And I told that kid's dad.
The answer to that is like if I'm like Lake the Ozarks, you have to have a permit to even have a tournament. Okay, so if you have a tournament in the July spectrum, they're going to know you're having a tournament. Well, they should just tell you, hey, you can't have a tournament during July because you can't keep fishing the boat.
And that's
So
kind of the goal.
Right.
You shouldn't. Because it's odd, you know. But I've turned into a sissy, man. I don't like fishing.
But they don't talk about it.
Right.
Nobody talks about it. Nobody enforces it. So.
I was down in Alabama, and we had a catch and release boat down there, a rubber boat, and we were taking three and a half pound crappie out of the river, keeping them alive and alive. An outdoor writer, Tim Huffman, he came in. I'll never forget this. He said, "I'd like to do an article. Let me do it in his voice. It was very southern. I'd like to do an article on how you keep these fish alive." Well, it's pretty easy. You put oxygen and water and put them back in the river. He said, well, why? Crappie are an endangered species. And I thought of that for a minute. Like, well, they're not. Neither is a bass, neither is a walleye, neither is a catfish, neither is anything. So, if outdoor writers who believe in conservation, the conservation department believes in it, they really don't believe in. The only thing people believe in the catch and release philosophy is the bass fishermen themselves. Everybody else wants to eat them. Conservation department, outdoor community, all of them eat them because they can control the balance of the fishery better. If you turn them back loose, they have to do mortality studies to figure out how that affects that fishery itself. But at the end of the day, they just simply eat them.
I have a complete theory on that. My grandmother, my grandmother on my dad's side, she ran a guide business. All of her sons were guides. They fished, they hunted, they trapped, they were complete outdoorsmen. And she ran the resort portion of this program. And when Ray Scott started talking about catch and release, she told me, she said, that can't work. And I said, well, Granny, they don't want to keep them big old bass. And she says, well, I can see you turning some of them loose. But she said, the good Lord gave you the knowledge and teeth to eat them.
Right.
You are population control for that species. And it never hit me, not one time, until the big bass virus hit Lake of the Ozarks. It hit Truman. It hit Histon. It hit all these local lakes. And when it happened, those lakes were at the top of their game. They were as good, huge fish population, tons and tons of bass. And then all of a sudden, now we got a big bass virus. If you pay attention to the big bass virus, it never hits a lake that's floundering. It's only the lakes that are awesome, off the chain, overpopulated. That's the only place. And my grandmother, till the day she died, she said, that's the good Lord stepping in and saying, I'll take care of it.
Yeah. If you're not going to do it, I'll do it.
If you're not going to do it, I'll take care of it.
Same concept.
And I mean,
happened with blue tongue with
she
deer.
died at,
Blue tongue with deer. The whole
she
thing.
died at 85 years old. Blue tongue happens for the exact same reason. People don't hunt anymore.
Correct.
The population is, that's the insurance company is what they think about nobody deer hunting.
Well, it's also
Yeah,
that
but
the
if
people
you like
don't.
eating bass,
No.
yeah, I mean that's the issue. It just
But think about when you were a kid, you did.
Nah,
Never.
not. I mean, if I hooked one deep, if we never went out and
Went
now,
fishing for them to eat them.
yes, but not a lot. Because we were.
They don't
I
taste.
was-
They don't taste good.
Yeah, I was fortunate to live in the Flat Creek, and so we ran lines. We ran the banks. We ham fished for frogs, and we did lines for flatheads. Sure. It was much better. And then we had crappie in the pond, and we had bluegill, and we did all that. But bass was never really on the radar. So
Way back when,
I think they scared everybody with the mercury too.
Sure. Way back when, my grandmother would just soon eat a 13-inch spotted bass, a walleye. She swore by them. She said them crawdad eating little dudes, they love, and they are tasty.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like and everyone has their own different. I've ate 3-pound crappie out of Mississippi, and I've ate a 9-inch crappie out of Lake Ozarks. I like the 9-inch better. They're thinner and they're better, and they're not so meaty. You don't get like soggy. I like thin crappie. See, Lloyd because he does too.
Mushy.
Yeah. If you get a wormy fish summer, that sucks. Yeah.
Really, I think where everybody screws up with all of their fish is they don't keep it cold. If I'm going out to catch a mess of white bass, let's just say I want to go catch a big old herd of white bass to put in my freezer, I take a cooler with ice. I don't put them in that live well. Let them hang out in that live well all day long, because that's not good. Because about half time they die, and that's when they don't taste good. The best crappie you can have is unfrozen, but never got warm. Okay, I mean, and that's my opinion of it. If I'm catching lots of crappie in the winter, that's right.
Those of us have access to a dock in the fall and the winter. If you're a recreational angler, you don't have that luxury. I have Curtis in the crowd. He owns a house on the water. I have a place on the water. You can go down. Ed does. Steve, you live in the water. Moved off. He's on the water. If you go down in the fall, catch crappie, clean them right there, cook them. It's the best you'll ever have.
My sister in Alabama will not eat a crappie that is frozen. She just
I know a lot of people like that.
She just will not.
It's fresher, they won't eat it.
Yeah, if you oh yeah, she's a pain in the butt. I'm not lying to you. And she knows, I think,
But so we're all right.
Yeah, but
Until she does.
yeah.
Watch this.
But
It's cop talk.
Oh yeah.
but it's the same way. It's the same way with all the fish. In the summertime, I just carry a cooler full of ice. I put them straight on ice. And when I'm cleaning them, after I'm done cleaning them, I put them in a bowl that's got water with ice in it. Keep them cold, and hopefully eat them that night. But keeping them cool is the main deal.
We've caught fish on the south, ice cold, brought them back and cleaned them later. It seems like they're better.
I just want them cold.
Yeah.
If it ever gets warm, it gets mushy.
All right, we're done.
Way over.
We're over. You got anything special to say?
Not really.
Got to thank Lloyd June at Hiawatha Beach Resort here at the beautiful Lake of the Ozarks. If you're out and about, go check them out. Little Buffalo Cove. You can find them on Google probably. Hiawatha Beach Resort. Beautiful Stover, Missouri. That's your address. You're not really in Stover. But if you want to get away from all the boat traffic, which I say that kind of as a joke, because there's boat traffic everywhere now. Go see the quiet side of the lake. Go to the river and see Lloyd from Hiawatha. You'll like that a bunch. Come see us pizza and beer at Brian Sage Outdoors. We have a little tax over there also. And sometimes Dad's a good deal. You can get a good deal there. Maybe see old Dion hanging around from time to time. But we're going to get him back in here a little bit more because
That's right.
I'm desperate for help. So he way over on the minnows. We have this argument all the time. But if you ever want to get a great bucket full of minnows, just come in with Dion and ask for a dozen. You'll get about 10. It's all good.
Dozen. 10 dozen.
10 dozen for a dozen.
For a dozen.
I've only worked periodically helping out in the last couple of weeks, but I guarantee you, Ed's seen my bag go up there, and he's like,
He
Oh,
counts.
he does, but he does that with me. It doesn't matter.
Does he?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I
Everybody.
just don't count minutes.
If
No,
James,
nobody,
you come
yeah.
for a dozen, Jamie's gonna give you 18 to 20. You can almost. I've worked with him for like 6 months. Guarantee 18 to 20.
On a dozen.
Ed, you're getting 14.
Yeah, 14.
A dozen.
He will. How he does it, but he doesn't count them. He doesn't count them, but
I'm
you're getting
pretty
14.
critical.
guaranteed.
I'm pretty critical on a dozen. If you come in and order a dozen minutes, that pisses me off.
Well, we all
Because a
have the same.
dozen minutes doesn't do anything for anybody.
We all.
You might as well just walk out there and pitch them in the parking lot.
At this table, we have the same philosophy. If we had to rely on selling minnows to make a living,
That's right.
then we don't need to be here.
That's correct.
But there's a line between what's acceptable and what's like way over.
You have somebody come in
We're
and
in the
order
acceptable side, but somebody else,
three or
not
four,
gonna name names,
3 or 4 dozen, then I'm going to give them a few extras.
like they're walking out going, "Oh my God, I love this guy," you know. You sell minnows, Lloyd? Yep. You count them one time. You pick them out like this. Yep. You're one of them tight asses.
They come back.
Everybody hates you on your minnows. That's right. You don't say that because they can't hear Lloyd. Let's talk about this real quick.
I can't hear us.
Yep. Yep. So that's right. So and that's an argument I've been having. So Lloyd is sitting in the crowd tonight. You guys can't see him, but he says, we buy every bait person buys by weight. So if you buy 10 pounds of a medium shiner, let's say 5. Let's back up to 5. 5 pounds of 2.5 inch shiner will yield you about 88 dozen minutes. Did you know that? So it's 88 dozen for 5 pounds. But if you get small puppies, you might get 160 dozen out of it. But my argument's always been, and it's everywhere in the country, but as soon as you get to a little bit north of Arkansas and up north, they sell them by the count. But you get past Arkansas down, they sell them by the pound. Did you know that? You can buy quarter pound, half pound, pound. And that's the way you should sell bait. And I told Dad, I said, I'm going to convert to that and sell everything like market by weight. He said, well, they won't buy it. I don't care.
They want minnows, they will.
Yeah, they want minnows, and I have to put, you're going to get approximately this many fish. But if you buy it by weight and sell it by weight, you still make money, and the country still gets an adequate amount of bait. They have a whole bait discussion on that, but we're not actually tonight. We're done.
I give them plenty of bait anyway.
Definitely. It's one of those things, how to maximize your dollar bait store operator.
Absolutely.
Dumb.
Wait till I'm served.
And then we have a whole conversation about oxygen.
Oh, God. That's not
We're not. We'll say that. So I'd like to thank everybody for watching. For those that lost the signal there, sorry, I'll try my cell phone next week. Appreciate everybody watching in. Be careful. Make sure you wear your life jacket switches. If you're out there at night, you're coming. So be careful. If you're out there on points fishing, there's a lot of girls out there at night partying.
Run them lights full time.
They really they don't care about you out there. And I say that
If
respectfully.
you want to drink, you're going to get home, there's Uber.
Yeah,
Take
Uber,
an Uber or a Lyft or something like
just
that.
be careful to the other guy. Always watch the other guy. So from all of you, Real and Filter Talk, and we'll thank you all for watching. Be careful. We'll see you next week on Wednesday. Thanks, guys.